thought, why don't we actually have a look at who every club's most wasteful player is this season. Now, how have I worked this out? Don't shoot me. I know some of you won't like this, but I've used XG, so I've calculated as of recording, or as of writing, by the way. So 21 games into the season, I've looked at the XG difference. So what do I mean by that? For those of you who are not into stats, essentially, every player has expected goals calculated for them this season, which means that these are the goals which the stats suggest they should have scored by now. And then, of course, they have their actual goals. So XG difference is the difference between how many they've scored and how many they've been expected to score at this point. So, of course, if you have a minus XG difference, that means you've scored less goals than you should have. And if you have a positive one, that means you have scored more goals than you would be expected to. So, hopefully that makes sense. We could do the reverse of this as well if you guys enjoy. We could look at the most clinical players this season. But yeah, this is just as of recording. This is just statistically. It doesn't mean that they are necessarily. It's just based on the stats. And we're going to go in order from 20 to number 1. So 20 being the club and the person with the least XG difference, and number 1, the highest in the Premier League. So, without further ado, let's begin. Number 20, Fulham, Rodrigo Muniz. XG difference 0.67. Expected goals scored 0. Actual goals scored 0. Fulham are actually one of the most clinical teams in the league, surprisingly. Basically, nobody in the side has a bad XG difference, with Muniz winning the award, but even then, he's not even been expected to score a goal, and hasn't, so you can't really call him wasteful. Fulham are a team who score their chances when they get them, but they don't score chances they're not meant to score either, because as a club overall their difference in XG is basically the exact same as the amount of goals they've scored. So yeah, Fulham have been pretty decent in front of goal this season, and Rodrigo Muniz potentially could have scored a goal, but yeah, nothing really to worry about in terms of clinicalness at Fulham. Number 19, West Ham, Thomas Souček. XG difference 0.91. Expected goals scored 6. Actual goals scored 5. Just like Fulham, West Ham don't really have too many players who are wasteful. Souček ranks the highest, with almost 1 goal less scored than expected, but that's hardly a major knock on him. It's a little funny that West Ham and Fulham both could maybe do with a striker, yet their attackers don't actually waste that many chances, statistically speaking. Number 18, Brighton, Karu Mitoma. XG difference 1.04. Expected goals scored 4. Actual goals scored 3. Brighton historically have been the XG kings, at least in this metric of wasting chances. In the 1920 season, they scored 10 goals less than expected. 2020 to 2021 season, they scored 11 goals less than expected, and in 21-22 it was 6 less than expected. But since De Zerbi has come in, that's changed, and they have been much more clinical, with this season their most wasteful player being Mitoma, who's been expected to score 1 goal more than he has. Lewis Dunk is a close second, but overall is pretty good for Brighton, who have scored as a team slightly more than expected for the first time in a while. Number 17, Luton. Carlton Morris, XG difference 1.1, expected goals 5, actual goals scored 4. Luton are a weird one. They have no outstanding player who you could say consistently misses chances, as Morris is their highest with only 1.1, but they have loads of players in and around the -1 XG difference. Oh yeah, I should also add, they are minuses, I forgot to say the differences, not positives. Anyway, this means as a team overall, they are wasteful, with Morris most players missing chances, and their overall goals scored is actually 5 less than expected. Luton just need to work on being clinical as a team, but there's no single individual really who needs the most work. Number 16, Nottingham Forest. Morgan Gibbs White, XG difference -1.16, expected goals scored 3, actual goals scored 2. Despite being low in the Premier League table, Forest have been pretty good in front of goal so far this season. Gibbs White is actually the only player in their entire squad with an XG difference over -1. They actually, as a team, have scored 2 more than expected, so clearly Forest have no problem in front of goal. Their issues have been in defence this season, because when they create, they score. Number 15, Wolves. Rayhan 8 Nuri. XG difference -1.19. Expected goals scored 1, actual goals scored 0. Wolves, just like Brighton, had a reputation for being one of the most wasteful teams in the Premier League, but that's changed this season with Gary O'Neill in charge. Their wingback 8 Nuri is the only player who could be doing better in front of goal, with almost all of their attackers actually exceeding their XG for once. As a team overall, they have scored about the amount you would expect them to at this stage, and this is probably a large reason why Wolves are doing much better this season, because they are finally putting their chances away. Number 14, Sheffield United. William Osula, XG difference -1.29, expected goals scored 1, actual goals scored 0. Now Sheffield United's XG is actually pretty good, but that's mainly because they don't really create many clear-cut chances for their players to miss. Osula ranks the highest, as the stats suggest he should have scored his first goal for the club, but is yet to get on the score sheets. Given he's 20 though, I will cut him some slack. Just like Luton, no one player is to blame for them not scoring. It's just as a team overall, nobody is really clinical, with them scoring 4 less goals than expected. Number 13, Crystal Palace. Eberiche Eze. XG difference -1.6. Expected goals 4. Actual goals scored 3. Palace have been pretty good in front of goal this season, with only Eze standing out in terms of missing chances. As a club, they have scored basically the exact same as expected, so just like other clubs here, they need to create some more, because when they do, they tend to score them. Clearly, they just don't create too many and have other problems in the pitch, which is the reason they are as far down as the table they are currently. Number 12, Newcastle. Callum Wilson. XG difference -1.66. as I said, they don't have anybody who is truly shocking in front of goal. They could all just do with some shooting practice. Number 11, Bournemouth, Ryan Christie. XG difference negative 1.72. Expected goals scored 1. Actual goals scored 0. Bournemouth have actually been one of the most clinical teams in the Premier League this season. Pretty much every single player besides Christie has been good in front of goal, with Christie being the only Bournemouth player to have an XG difference higher than 1 goal. That being said, they still as a team have scored 1 goal less than expected, but overall it's been pretty good, besides for Christie, who somehow has not scored this season for Bournemouth. Number 10, Aston Villa, Ollie Watkins. XG difference negative 1.78. Expected goals scored 10. Actual goals scored 9. This one might surprise you a bit, but Ollie Watkins is actually statistically this season the most wasteful Aston Villa player. Watkins has had a terrific season so far and earned a lot of plaudits for his improvement, but that being said, he's been very inconsistent in front of goal and could have slightly more goals than he's scored so far. Based on these stats, it suggests to me, and also when I watch him as well, Watkins has got much better at getting in those scoring positions and is therefore receiving a lot more chances, and he scores most of them, but he isn't the most clinical striker. That being said, he's still had a great season so far, but maybe could just be a bit more ruthless in front of goal, as he does tend to have the odd clanger where he does miss a big chance. Number 9, Burnley, Jay Rodriguez. XG difference negative 1.9. Expected goals scored 4. Actual goals scored 2. We are starting to get to the actual players now you can call wasteful, as the XG starts to ramp up a bit here, and Jay Rodriguez, the veteran, has been very wasteful and has not been good in front of goal for Burnley. Now, to my surprise, Burnley have actually been really good in front of goal this season, despite being absolutely rubbish. In fact, they've actually outperformed their XG as a team, scoring 2 more than expected. So clearly finishing hasn't been a major issue for the team overall, but for Rodriguez, he does need to get better in front of goal, especially when you're down there like Burnley are. Every goal matters, and Rodriguez should have had around 2 more by now. Number 8, Manchester United, Bruno Fernandes. XG difference negative 1.93. Expected goals scored 5. Actual goals scored 3. Man United have had one of the worst attacks in the league this season, scoring less than most teams in the division, but their XG actually suggests this isn't necessarily down to their finishing. Bruno leads their XG missed table with almost 2 goals less goals scored than expected, which isn't too surprising, as to be fair, he loves shooting whenever he gets the chance, so that's probably why. While as a club they have scored 4 goals less than expected, that's not horrible compared to other teams, and there's nobody in the team who is a really, really bad finisher, you would say. The problem is, there's nobody good at finishing. Literally every single attacking player in the team has a negative XG difference, and one of the only players with a positive one in the entire squad is actually McTominay. So United really need to find somebody who knows how to score and be clinical. Number 7, Arsenal, Gabriel Jesus. season for being wasteful, and the stats say that's correct. Arsenal's attack has been very wasteful this season, with Gabriel Jesus, who has taken a lot of stick, the biggest culprit, as he should have scored at least 2 more goals than he has already. What's that striking to me though is that because Saka is actually very, very close to Jesus, with XG suggesting Saka should have scored 1.9 more goals. And just like Man United, every single attacker besides one has a negative XG difference, which is a massive contrast to last season, where most of them were actually exceeding their XG. Can you guess who that one attacker at Arsenal exceeding their XG is? Who do you think it is? I can tell you the answer, surprisingly, even though he gets stick from Arsenal fans, is actually Eddie Nketiah. Although I think that's largely because he scored a hat-trick versus Sheffield, which included a screamer, which kind of boosts his stats a bit. But still, that's a nice little stat. Next time you hear somebody saying to sell Nketiah, just tell them that fact and it might shut them up. Number 6, Spurs. Brennan Johnson. XG difference negative 2.48. Expected goals scored 3. Actual goals scored 1. On the contrast to Arsenal and Man United, Spurs have been killers in front of goal this season. Every single attacker in their side has a positive XG difference, except one player, the new £50 million signing Brennan Johnson, who hasn't started well, at least in front of goal at Spurs. He should have scored at least 3 by now, but only has the 1 to his name in a white shirt. What's more shocking to me though is that Richarlison actually has a positive XG difference, which shows how much he's improved this season. Pedro Porre is a close second to Brennan, but the new man needs to keep up with the pace these other Spurs attackers are setting in front of goal. Right, number 5, Man City. This is gonna shock you. The most wasteful player, Erling Haaland. XG difference negative 2.73. Expected goals scored 16. Actual goals scored 14. Now this is by far the most shocking one in this video. The record-breaking goal-scoring robot is statistically the most wasteful player at Man City this season, and ranks as high as 5th in the Premier League on this list. I know, it's shocking. To put this in context, Haaland last season actually scored 3 more goals than expected, yet this season has almost 3 goals less than expected. Despite this, he's still the top goal scorer in the league, which is hilarious because if he had the same form he did last season, I mean, he would be absolutely clear in the Golden Boot race. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean Haaland is rubbish, but it just means this season he has missed a lot of big chances, which I can back up with the eye test. I think it was against Sheffield where he missed like an open goal. So yeah, he's actually not had the best season so far, at least in terms of XG. Number 4, Brentford. Keane Lewis Potter. XG difference negative 2.8. Expected goals scored 4. Actual goals scored 2. Brentford have had a poor season without Ivan Toney, and actually the main reason is because they don't have anybody to finish. They still create plenty of chances but miss tons of them. Lewis Potter has missed the most, with XG suggesting he should have double the amount of goals that he has right now. Johan Wieser is a very close second with 2.6 less than expected, and pretty much the whole team has scored less goals than expected. However, I'm shocked that Neil Maupay actually has an XG difference of -1. He's usually got a difference of about 10, so credit to him for being a bit better at shooting this season. As a team, they've scored a whopping 7 goals less than expected, which is one of the highest in the league, and they will be hoping Ivan Toney can reverse that difference in the second half of the season. Alright, this is where we take a big jump now, and this is very big. Number 3 is Chelsea. Nicholas Jackson. XG difference -4.18. Expected goals scored 11. Actual goals scored 7. Alright, we have now entered the truly elite of the Premier League's worst finishers. A massive step up, we go to a whopping 4 goals less scored than expected with Chelsea striker Nicholas Jackson. Jackson is in his first season in the Prem, granted, and he's young, but to miss that many chances is pretty inexcusable. To be fair, he is not the only one in the Chelsea squad, with the likes of Enzo Fernandez and Conor Gallagher posting high in this metric as well. In fact, as a team, Chelsea, I believe, rank second in the Prem for their XG difference, with XG suggesting they should have scored 10 more goals than they should have. But Jackson is the biggest culprit, as he's responsible for nearly half of those 10 goals, and clearly he does not know how to finish. Maybe he can be coached into it, but right now he is not clinical at all. Number 2 is Everton. Dominic Calvert-Lewin. XG difference of -4.6. Expected goals scored 7. Actual goals scored 3. Into the top 2 and just missing out on the top spot is Calvert-Lewin. DCL, along with the number 1, I think is one of the only players on this list who's actually scored a goal, who has an XG missed higher than scored. He should have scored 4 more goals than he has, yet he's only actually scored 3, which is really, really bad, and shows how much he's been affected by those injuries over the years, as he's lost that finishing ability he had when he was good under Carlo Ancelotti. To be fair to Calvert-Lewin though, everyone in the Everton team are really bad, with Everton being the worst team in the league in terms of being clinical. They should have scored a massive 12 more goals than expected at this stage, and in fact, only 4 players in their entire squad are not underperforming their XG, and basically all of those are defenders, so these guys have a serious finishing problem, but so does Calvert-Lewin. Alright, number one. In number 1 we have Liverpool. Darwin Núñez. XG difference 6.13. Expected goals scored 11. Actual goals scored 5. So, at number 1, to nobody's surprise, the most wasteful player in the Premier League this season is Darwin Núñez. In fact, I believe this is actually his 2nd year running at the top, considering last year he was top of this metric as well. So clearly this guy still has not learned how to score. 6.13 is by far and away the highest in the league. That's a whole 2 more goals than 2nd place, and 2nd place is really bad. The funny thing is, in my video where I ranked Klopp signings, I got so much abuse for where I put Darwin Núñez. Go check it out if you want to see where I put him. So I do just want to reel off some facts here based on this to just, back up my claim a little bit. So Núñez, as we've just established, is first in the Premier League for the 2nd year running so far in terms of underperforming XG. His XG missed is actually higher than his actual goals scored, one of a few players in the league to do this. if he had scored the chances that the stats suggest he should be scoring, he would more than double his current tally. Compared to the Liverpool squad as well, it's even worse. Only 2 players have an XG difference higher than 1, and his XG difference is by far and away more than the entire Liverpool squad combined. The fact Liverpool's overall XG is still around as much as they have actually scored is a testament to the likes of Salah for making up for those 6 goals Nunes should have scored, because that is really, really bad. Now, granted, I'm recording this after the Bournemouth game where he scored 2 goals, so his stats might be a little bit different when I wrote this script, but anyway, the fact remains he is still really, really poor in front of goal, and sure, he brings a lot to Liverpool more than goals, but for any player, let alone a striker, to have an XG difference of -6 at halfway in the season, that's horrific and could not really be justified. Nunes may be a good player, and I'm not picking on Nunes here, but with finishing like that, you cannot tell me he is a £72 million player. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, there we go. Those are the stats there for you. Every club's most wasteful player in the Premier League. Which one surprised you? Which one do you think is wrong by the stats, the eye test? Do you think there's somebody else in the squad who is more wasteful than